And so, there's so many ways to make money in this world, and it could be through online sales on Amazon. It could be, entrepreneurship. It could be buying a franchise. Could be real estate. There's so many different parts of real estate. My sector is multifamily. I think it's the best, but of course I've got a slanted view, but I could prove it. But the bottom line is I do believe it's the best. And so I teach people how to buy apartment buildings, but the vehicle is irrelevant until you have that, like you call it, that millionaire mind, and know what it is you want and why you want it. So again, that's the first thing we do. Would you like me to describe that? I do it in about an hour and 15 and a half at my boot camp, but I could describe the process. I think it might add some value if you'd like me to.
Absolutely. I would love to hear your process for finding those things.
All right. So here's what you do, guys. And by the way, I did this on my Rod Khleif official Facebook page. On January 1st with music and a guide, a goal setting guide that you can download for free. And I don't try to sell you anything. If you ping me on any social channel, I can send you the link to that and guide you through this. But if you don't want to, do that, then let me just describe it to you. So what you want to do is you want to pick an hour when you have a lot of energy and you're not going to be distracted. And you just sit down and write down everything you could ever possibly want in life, all the stuff, the houses, the cars, the boats, the jet skis, the planes, all the stuff. And there's nothing wrong with stuff. And so, but here's what's important. The bottom line is people spend more time planning a freaking birthday party than they do designing their lives. This is designing your life. Okay. So you write down all the stuff you want and take the lid off your brain. Imagine if you write it down, you're going to get it. If you want a jet, write that down, a private island, a yacht, whatever it is, because there's nothing you can't do, be, or have if you go after it. There really isn't, nothing. So write that down. Write down how much money you want from your investment, say in 3 years, how much money you want in, say, cash flow in 10 years. Write down how much money you want in the bank in 3 years, and, in case the stuff hit the fan fund, and how much you want in 10 years. So just all of that. Also write down all the things you want to do in this lifetime. Like behind me, behind my green screen here, I've got vision boards on the floor. You can kind of see next to my chair there with things that I want now. Okay. But you want, like I've got a travel vision board there as well for the places I want to go, or places I've gone, I want to go again. So write down all those things. Write down, I've got a friend that's climbing every mountain over 14,000 feet. That's an example of that. I jumped out of a perfectly good airplane a few years ago. I'll never do it again, but it's off the list. So bucket list items too. Okay. Write those down. Also write down what you want to learn in this lifetime, whatever skill you want to learn. Write that down. If you want to learn multifamily, for God's sakes, come see me. Like I say, I do these boot camps. They're really cheap. I'm really inexpensive. Like if you come to Denver, it's $197, and I don't sell anything there. 3 days of training for $197. It's truly a no-brainer if you're interested. If you're interested in checking it out, text Rod to 72345, and you'll get the link to that boot camp if you're interested. But the bottom line is you write down everything you want to learn as well. And then lastly, write down who you want to help. We will do more for others than we'll do for ourselves. And again, this is the fuel to get you to kick, go make it happen, to build that burning desire. So, if you, like I bought my parents a house here in Florida when my dad was alive, bought them a car, took them on cruises. Who do you want to do things for? Write that down. Okay. Now, if you're analytical, don't stop and analyze it. Just keep writing. You can scratch it out later, but keep your energy high. Write down everything you can think of. All right. Once you can't think of another thing, there's a couple more steps. You need to write down, you need to put a time limit on each goal, and and we'll call it years. So you put a 1, a 3, a 5, even a 10 or a 20. Okay. How many years you think it'll take to achieve it? Recognizing that we will overestimate what we can do in a year and massively underestimate what we can do in 5, 10, or 20 years. And I'll give you an example of this. I'm going to give you some examples here. Please know I'm not bragging, because I just want to inspire you. Okay. But when I lived in Denver, I immigrated, ended up in Denver. Like I said, I was 18. I knew I wanted to live on the beach. I always wanted to live on the beach. And I would visualize the palm trees and the surf and the sand and the waves. 20 years later, I built this $8 million, 10,000 square foot mansion on the beach on one side, and it was a Gulf to Bay. I had my boat lifts on the backside. It was like this slice through this island, which was unthinkable when I was 18. But the point of it is, so don't limit yourself. Whatever you want, your grandiose dreams, you write that down, but put a time limit on each goal. Then I want you to pick your number one goal. I mean, that goal, when you get it, you're like, oh my God, you know you've arrived when you achieve that goal. So put that on a separate sheet of paper, that number one goal. Then I want you to pick your top 3 one-year goals. Put those on a separate sheet of paper. So you've got 4 goals, leave some room in between them. At this point, you're ahead of 99.9% of the people on the planet that do a New Year's resolution that's forgotten by February 15th. But there's a couple more quick steps. You need to write down under each one of those goals why it's an absolute freaking must for you to achieve. And use emotionally charged words like amazing and incredible and beautiful. So you might put, so I can show my kids what incredible success looks like. So I can show my wife or husband what it means to live a life of amazing abundance. So we can have unbelievable freedom to do whatever we want, whenever we want, wherever we want, bring whoever we want, whatever is going to juice you, write that down. Okay. And then once you've got some positive reasons why each one of those goals is an absolute must, I want you to put some pain in there if you don't achieve it, and make it freaking hurt. So I don't feel like a failure. So I don't fail my kids. So I don't fail my wife, so I don't live a life of regret. Kai, there was this nurse in Australia, a hospice nurse. Her name was Bronnie Ware. And so she took care of patients when they were about to die. And she asked them a question. You know what the question was? It was, do you have any regrets? At the end of their life, she asked them, do you have any regrets? She wrote a book about it. It's called The 5 Regrets of Dying. You know what the number one regret was? It was not living my own life, living someone else's life, not doing what I know I'm capable of. I can't think of anything worse than that. So put some pain in there, make it hurt. So you've got your positive, negative reasons why. Last thing is you got to go get pictures. Go get pictures of your goals and or make declarations. I'll give you some examples. Jim Carrey, the actor, the comedian, when he was flat broke, wrote himself a check for $10 million. And he used to go up by the Hollywood sign and he would visualize cashing it. That's how much money he made for Dumb and Dumber. For those of you millennials, the check is something we used to use to pay for things. Cello and Venmo or whatever. But anyway, so I'll give you another more recent example. Demi Lovato, the singer, when she was unknown like 12 years ago, posted on social media, one day I'm going to sing the national anthem at the Super Bowl. Go check a couple Super Bowls ago who sang the national anthem. I'll give you some personal examples from me. When I was 18, I figured I had to get a 4-door car to show people houses, right? So I got this bone ugly Ford Granada, just a piece of crap, bench seat in the front, but I figured I had to have that. Well, the guy I told you about, whose daughter I dated, had a couple of Corvettes and he let me drive one. And I'm like, oh my God, this is freaking amazing. So I got a picture out of a magazine. This is before the internet had been thought of. I got a picture out of a magazine of a Corvette and I put on the visor this bone ugly Granada. So every time I sat in it, it was right there in front of me. Within a year or two, I had a Corvette. I'll give you a couple more examples. Again, I'm not bragging. This stuff doesn't even interest me anymore. But this was back when the TV show Magnum PI was out. It was before you were born, Kai. It was about this detective in Hawaii that Tom Selleck was the actor. And he drove this Ferrari 308. First time I ever saw an exotic car. I'm like, oh my God, that's incredible. I got a picture of that car, put on the visor of my Corvette. Within a year or two, I had a Maserati, looked just like it. Last example. I'm the guy that always wanted a Lamborghini, so I had posters, like Mike Tyson and his, I think it was Robin Givens. They had the matching Lamborghinis. I had the poster of that. And what's funny is my son collected models of exotic cars and he had like 30, the McLarens and the Ferraris and the Porsches. And he had a Lamborghini, exact same color and style that I ended up getting, which I wrecked. But in fact, let me show you something. This is my planner. I'm a dinosaur. I use a paper planner. In the back of this thing, I've got pictures that have been in here for 22 years. They're in plastic. You see how beat up they are. Mm-hmm. Well, first pictures are pictures of my kids when they're very young. They're my gratitude pictures. To manifest everything in life, you use gratitude. This is how I did it, okay? Through gratitude. So these are pictures of my kids. My kids are 30 and 26 now. Then I've got pictures of things that I wanted. That house on the beach, this looks just like it before I built it. I had 10-foot high glass like that. I had travertine floors just like that. Now what's crazy is I lost that house and all the craziness, when things crashed, but, and now I live in a compound. I have, I have 6 buildings here. I've got a big main house. I've got a beautiful guest house on the water. I've got a media building where I do my online courses now. I've got, store, I have beautiful exercise facility, on and on and on. And look at these bottom pictures. I don't know if Kai, if you can see those white walls in those pictures. See those white walls? That's my backyard. Yep. See the white wall? Is that freaking crazy? This is like 22 years ago. I put these in here. Then I've got, pictures of, let's see, stupid shit like watches. I got a few $100,000 worth of watches, again, stupid stuff, but there's a Lamborghini before I ever got it. Okay. Rolls Royce, Bentley, all this stuff that I got because I had pictures. So get freaking pictures. They work. Okay. Put them around you. All right. That's it. I'll drop the mic now. That was a little longer. Okay.
That's an amazing way to drop a mic, Rod, I gotta say.
Okay.
And
thanks.
You mentioned Think and Grow Rich, and it's kind of the one thing that stuck out to me about that book, and to all our millionaires, if you haven't read it, I definitely highly encourage you pick up that book and read it twice a year, if not once. But conceive it, believe it, achieve it. And it's like you taking out those pictures, and like it's like brainwashing yourself, because we're going through brainwashing every single day. Right. Through employment, through the people that we hang out with. So it's like conceiving it, believing it until you eventually achieve it. And so you mentioned another thing, Rod, which was the time limit. And that's more so, you aim small, you miss small, because
it's got to be measurable. It's got to be measurable. Yeah.
And that was my next question. What are some tips as far as how you can realistically or like wisely measure that time limit, so you're just not throwing times and say, well, I want $3 million by February 2023, right?
Sure.
How do you measure that?
Sure. I'll get people that say, I want $1 billion in 5 years. I'm like, okay, let's tone it back here. Let's get a little real. So really the thing you want to do is your brain has to believe it. Okay. So if it's too crazy, your brain's not going to believe it. But the bottom line is, once you determine what it is you want, and it needs to be a stretch for sure, then you back into it. Okay. So for me to own 1,000 units in 3 years, how many do I have to buy a year? How many do I have to buy a month? How many do I have to buy a week? How many do I need to look at to buy that many a week or a month? How many calls do I need to make? And you just back into it. And that's how you do it with any of your goals. And then you've got to decide again what the vehicle is going to be. You've got to plan. You fail to plan to fail. Bottom line is you absolutely have to plan it. And even in my business in apartment buildings, if you're going to buy an apartment building, you've got to have a business plan for that. For that apartment building, you've got to have a plan for it. So you've got to plan. But the bottom line is once you've determined what it is you want, you've got to make a decision. And the Latin root for the word decision means to cut off. It means if you're going to attack the island, you're burning your ships because you're taking their damn ships home, right? That's a decision. It's done. Okay. It's not a 1 foot in, 1 foot out kind of thing. It's freaking done. And when you've made that decision, you're totally committed. You're like a train on a track. Now, if you don't make that decision, you can be knocked off track. So you've got to make that decision. And you also have to have positive expectation. Okay. You have to expect to win, because whatever you expect, whatever you anticipate is what you're going to get, positive or negative. And so, I know if you're listening to Kai, you're a leader, and right now the world needs leaders. Okay. But that means you've got to manage your focus in a big way. And don't get me started on the freaking fake news and the crap that's out there on the news right now. You've got to really stand guard at the door to your mind, bring in the good stuff. On my podcast, I do these clips every week called Own Your Power, about just that, owning your power. And I've got hundreds of them on there. So even if you're not interested in real estate, I think you really enjoy those episodes. It's my podcast called Lifetime Cash Flow. But even if not me, go on YouTube and bring in the good stuff. And I love to watch soldiers coming home and stuff, the stuff that juices you, makes you feel good. Bring that stuff in, motivational clips, bring that stuff in. Okay. But again, focus is super important. The wealthiest people on the planet are the ones that have the most focus. And, I started to, and I will tell you, cell phones really screw up your focus, because you're sitting there watching a movie and you're scrolling through social media and you're making micro decisions every split second, which really hurts your focus. One of the podcasts I listen to is Tim Ferriss. I get excited about my 12 million downloads, and he does that a week, but what he does is he interviews some of the best people in the world at what they do. Athletes, he's had Jamie Foxx and I'm sorry, actors, Jamie Foxx, he's had athletes, the world class, best in the world, politicians, not that there's too many good ones of those, but, business people, billionaires, but some of the best in the world at what they do. And I started to hear a pattern, because he deconstructs how they achieve their success. I started to hear a pattern, and they all meditate. And what does meditation enhance? Focus, right? So focus is super important. Anyway, I kind of went off on a side road there. Sorry.
No, I love it. Focus is definitely super important. And
Right.
another thing that you mentioned, which was perfect timing, was it sounds like, Rod, you once you find or identify the reward goal, like getting the house, getting the money, getting the
Right.
car,
Right.
is you have to work backwards by setting action goals. And I think
Right.
that's what a lot
Right.
of us forget, is setting goals.
Intermittent goals throughout the path. You know,
Mhm.
you journey, you set out this journey, and you make decisions. What are you going to do this year? You break it down to this year, this month. Yeah. Yeah. Sorry, I interrupted, but yeah.
No, that's fine. It's intermittent goals. And
Mm.
what would you say is the best setting to set these goals? Because for me, per se, I find it distracting trying to set goals in the house or in the office. I have to go somewhere that I'm don't spend a lot of time already,
That's
just
really,
to avoid pragmatic thinking. What helped for you for setting some of those goals? Bless
yeah.
you.
Sorry, sneeze. I try to go somewhere beautiful. I've done it, you know, on the beach. I've done it. I'll go to a hotel. I'll sit on the balcony and I'll do it there. But again, if anybody's listening and you want me to guide you through this process with, again, it's very well done, professionally done with music, and you get this goal setting guide. You know, I've got a copy of it right here. You get this, you download it, and it guides you through this process that I just described. So you don't have to think about it. I mean, I'll direct you to what to do. And again, if you ping me on any social channel, my last name's a little hard to spell, but if you go to realestatewithrod.com, you'll see, you know, that's rodkhleif.com. You'll find me there. And I've got all sorts of free, if you're interested in real estate at all, I've got tons of free videos and books and articles and everything else there. But then you DM me on any social channel, I'll get you that link to do that. But, you know, I would go somewhere, you're not going to be interrupted. I would do it with your spouse, you know, your significant other, because, and do it separately. Don't do it together. Do your own. She or he does their own. You do your goals, and then you see how aligned you are. Make sure you're headed the same direction, right? Make sure you want the same things. Very powerful to do that. Important to do that. Once your kids are, teenagers, very important again to do that. Do it with, have them do it. If you can bring them to my event, I promise you I will juice them, because it's very powerful when you get aligned on what you want. It's very motivational, very inspirational. So anyway, rambled, but yeah.
No, that makes a lot of sense. And I would definitely also encourage, what you just said of taking that time to revisit those goals with your spouse, with your partner.
Mm-hmm.
Let's switch gears a little bit, Rod, because I do want to dive into probably one of the most polarizing facts that you shared with us earlier, and one that our listeners probably puckered up and really focused into what you had to say when you mentioned, losing over $50 million back in 2008. What was that period like, and how did you, what do you think was the biggest thing that kind of helped you push forward and to either make some major changes in habits or behaviors?
Well, yeah, it sucked. Okay. It was no fun because I thought I was set for life, obviously, and it took a couple of months to lick my wounds and feel sorry for myself. But what's important to remember when something negative happens to you is that it does not become your story or your identity. Okay. Very important. Okay. Very important that you do not allow it. And that goes for any business that you decide to get into. If you're listening and you want to go do something, don't let it be you. It's not you. It's your vehicle. Okay. And if the vehicle fails, doesn't mean you're a failure. It just means that didn't work. But if it's you, then you're the one failing. So it's very important to separate yourself from the vehicle in your mind. Okay. Very, very important. But, for me, it was a lot of things that helped me turn this around. I was around an incredible peer group. Okay. I was in a mastermind of people that were killing it through the crash. And they're like, okay, quit whining, you big pussy, get up and go make, 50 million, whatever. Just get up and go make some money. Go make it happen. So I was around people that were pushing me. Like I've got I've got a coaching program. They're called my Warriors. And I'm real proud of some. I'm gonna brag for a minute. So I've been teaching about 4 years. My Warriors, my students now own over 55,000 units. So my greatest accomplishment next to my kids. Super proud of that. But the reason that I bring that up is because they're doing these deals together. They're pushing each other. They're motivating each other. They're inspiring each other. They're not scared of success. You want to be careful who you're around. There will be people around you that are afraid of your dreams. They'll be afraid of them, or they'll be jealous of them, and they'll poo-poo your dreams. So you got to be really careful who you share your dreams with. And sometimes it's family. And I would tell you, love your family, choose your peers. Be very careful who you allow to influence you. So peer group's critical, because I'm going to tell you, you show me your 3 best friends, I'll show you who you are. Not just financially, personally, health, happiness, everything. You are who you hang out with. So be very selective who you allow to influence you. So peers was a big piece. Again, realigning with what I wanted. It would have been very easy for me to bemoan my existence because I lost everything. Of course, I did for a while. Now I just use it to teach. But the point is, I had to redirect my focus, like we just talked about, towards the things that I wanted. It's a natural tendency to focus on what we don't want. I'll give you an example. They asked Mother Teresa if she was anti-war. She said, no, I'm pro-peace. Get the distinction? So it's just a play. I mean, it's the same thing, but it's your focus, right? So that was a big thing. Redirecting my focus, getting aligned with what I wanted again, reassociating with what I wanted instead of what I didn't want, because we have a tendency to focus on what we don't want and the negative. Like, you're pretty evolved, so probably not you, but if someone came up to me and said, Rod, how you doing? I'm like, oh my God, man, I'm freaking fantastic. Life is amazing. Life is beautiful. They take a step back and say, okay, Rod's off his freaking meds. Okay. But if they came up to me and said, Rod, how you doing? I'm like, oh shit, man, my back is killing me. And oh, I just lost 20 grand in the stock market and blah, blah, blah. They'll put their arm around you and say, oh, I feel you, brother. We connect through pain. So be careful of that. Okay. You want to, again, be around people that are juiced and motivated and excited. The vehicle is so irrelevant. What's relevant is you getting excited about these goals, getting around people that aren't going to, diminish your dreams, that push you and motivate you and validate you. And then you just got to take massive freaking action. You got to take that first step. Okay. Like Dr. Martin Luther King said, you take that first step in faith and the next step will be revealed. You got to take that first step. And the journey, Lao Tzu, thousands of miles ago said, the journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. So you got to take that first step. And in real estate, I see it with the first deal. It's the law of the first deal. It's the hardest. It's the scariest. It's the most stressful. It takes the longest. And then once it's done, they're like, is that all there is? I see it with my students. It takes them 8 months to get that first deal. Next thing I know, they have 6. It's like, what the hell just happened? They got past that fear, So that first step is important. Focus is important. Peer group is important. Last thing I'll mention, and so I'm not like monopolizing this, but is you got to play to your strengths. Okay. Don't try to build your weaknesses. In multifamily real estate, especially because it's a team sport. And if you play to your strengths and hire a line or partner for your weaknesses, I see it in the multifamily business a lot. Like you'll get somebody like me that's a great communicator, and my partner is very analytical. He's also a good communicator, but he's the analytical one. So that's a fantastic partnership. And I'm not trained to be something I'm not. I can read a spreadsheet, but I don't love it. You can throw him in a room with a spreadsheet and throw raw meat in once in a while, and he's happy. Okay, so you want to be playing to your strengths. Anyway, I'll stop now.
That's a huge thing, because I feel like a lot of nowadays with social media and the instant gratification that it provides, we see, and it's like monkey see, monkey do, and we try to be this superhero that has all the superpowers, as opposed to going back to the power of your peer group and kind of building a mastermind of people that have strengths that you do not and have weaknesses that you can add value to, so forth and so on.